This podcast is on your journey in music and how you got to where you are now. So we'll start with where you were born and raised. Where'd you grow up?
I was born and raised in Washington State, actually. I was born on an island called Whidbey Island, and then spent like most of my young adult life in a very small town called Sequim.
Sequim, Washington?
Yeah.
Very cool. We're in San Diego. I know a little bit about the Washington area, West Coast. So
have you ever heard of Sequim?
I have not heard of Gwim, but I know there are islands up there.
But I like every once in a while I run into someone who's like, my grandma's from Sequim, and I'm like, that's crazy. I thought I was so but yeah, I moved to Nashville when I was 17.
Oh wow, are you in Nashville now?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. My family's moving there in the next few months.
What? That's so cool. Do they do type stuff?
No, I do just this. But
yeah.
we want to just be around because that's where everybody is. So that's awesome. Which part of Nashville, if you don't mind me asking? Are you in like the outskirts?
West End.
Okay, right on. That's awesome. So at 17, you moved to Nashville. How did you get into music prior to that?
It's always been the only thing that I'm good at.
Okay.
Very like it's always also been the only thing that I wanted to do. I was big. I was like a shy kid, but I was also an attention seeker, and I don't really know how those two things go together. Very much who I am. And like as a kid, like music was like, it was like, oh, this is what I'm good at. This is my thing. This is like how I can like get people's attention without having to like talk to them or just show them my personality. I can just like sing them weird songs that I wrote. And so even like growing up in a really small town, I was the kid that like did all the talent shows. I was in every single choir class that was possibly available to me. I sang in church. So I don't know what like one thing started it. My family's not musical whatsoever.
Oh, interesting.
But they like music. They appreciate it. So I grew up with all kinds of music just being exposed to me. And yeah, it just I mean, as I got older and I learned like what songwriting was and that you can have music as a career if you want to. Not a lot of people advise it, but talent. I was like, okay, I can maybe find a way to make money off of this. I learned how to play the guitar. I started like writing songs intentionally because I always kind of did. Yeah.
When did you learn? How old were you when you learned guitar?
I think I was 12.
Wow. Okay. Very early.
That was when I started, and I pretty much taught myself in the beginning, and then I took a few lessons, and I'm pretty much at the same skill level I was at 12 years old, maybe worse now.
That's doubtful.
like I need, it's doubtful, but you'd be surprised. My goal, I need to know enough to be able to like accompany myself if I'm like writing a song, pretty much. Sure. And I reached that goal, and then I stopped learning. I'll get it someday. I'll get status maybe by the time I die.
But with the guitar and when did you start really putting songs together? Was it right away at 12, 13 years old?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of always was writing songs. Like, so things like that are so hard for me to pinpoint. Like, I remember, well, according to my parents, the very first song I ever wrote was called Pickles in the Forest. And solid title. I was like 6 years old and I wrote it in the bathtub, and it went, according to them, it went, pickles in the forest, oh, how funny I can be. And they love to tell me that story, so I just
That's awesome. And that's a great melody. I mean, at 6, wow.
I'm pretty sure I ripped it off from like a jingle on TV.
No one will ever know.
There'd be legal issues if I were to release it, but if you want like a specific like pinpoint, I would say like 6 years old in the bathtub.
Sure. That's awesome.
My first. It was just always like I would just always make up songs and dances and stuff. But yeah, when I got my first guitar was when I started writing like more structured music. At that point though, my songs were still like, they were all like 4 to 7 minutes long. Like I didn't know how
Oh,
to
wow.
end.
Power ballads.
Power ballad. This 6 is minute. that was that was my thing for a minute.
That's amazing. When you started writing songs and everything, you said you're in talent shows. Were you going to the talent shows and performing your own music?
Yeah.
Wow.
What probably like the older I got, the more I did like original stuff. There was definitely a solid period of time where it was like karaoke background tracks.
Oh, sure.
Like Carrie Underwood, Jesus Take the Wheel,
Right.
like ripped off of YouTube. Was YouTube around at that point? Ripped off of somewhere on the internet. Karaoke music. It was in the wrong key. You could still like faintly hear her vocals in the background.
Sure.
That was my jam for a minute, but yeah, eventually it became original stuff. As soon as I was able to cut the songs down to like more like 4 minutes to fit into like the allotted time slots of the talent shows, that's when I started bringing my, I'm pretty sure.
Do you remember the first time you played some of your own music in front of people?
Yeah, I'm trying to, oh my gosh. It's actually such a cringy memory. I think it was my 7th grade talent show. I know that this was like one of the first times I played for a lot of people my own music. And I wrote a song called Remember Me.
Okay.
And it was basically about how I'm going to be famous one day and I'm going to leave this small town and all of you suckers are going to remember who I am. Like it was very, looking back on it, like I found like the notebook I wrote it in the other day or like old Facebook video, but looking back on it, like I was like, this was a very arrogant song for me to sing. I thought I was being inspirational and like hopeful, but the song was very much like, you're going to remember me. I'm going to be a star. And I just was so confident about it. I remember in the performance, there was one part where, cause like, it was like, one day you will remember me with my black guitar and my ripped blue jeans. Something, when the crowd stands up and sings, oh. And there's like one part when I say, like, you're going to remember me. And I pointed to someone in the audience.
That's awesome.
No. That's the flashback I have. It just randomly hits me sometimes where I'm like, oh my God, where did the come from?
Well, you obviously were right. You know what I mean? That's funny. That kind of reminds me of this. There's a story. I don't know if it's true or where I heard it, but like about Katy Perry when she got famous, going back and playing her high school and like calling out like some guy that she had a crush on in high school was like at the show, or he ended up coming to it. And she's she called him out and was like, yeah, you didn't like me and look at me now type thing.
That's now, yeah. See, like I brought that vibe as a 7th grader to my.
That's amazing.
It wasn't warranted at all. People probably do remember that performance because it was just so ridiculous. That's the thing they remember me for.
That's funny. Well, so at 17, you get to Nashville. Were you still in high school at that time, or like tell me about how'd you get there?
Yeah, I don't really know. No. I actually started traveling to Nashville from Squim when I was 15 years old because my family like reconnected with like the sister of a family friend, like a friend of my mom's, who had moved to Nashville from Washington to start a publishing company in Nashville. She came back to Washington. She came back to Whidbey Island actually. And she like decided to hold like a songwriter workshop because something that I've now learned is when you leave like a small town to go like do something interesting, like pursue music and it's your job. If you come back to said small town, there are going to be people like who like have questions for you and they want to get into the business and they want to like learn how to be songwriters and stuff. And so I feel like she was like, okay, I know like every time I come home, a bunch of people ask me a bunch of questions. I'm going to hold a workshop. That way we can all just get in one place. I can get it over with.
About to tell the story 10 different times.
Yeah. Yes, and now I kind of get it because I go home and people want to get coffee and like figure out like what the heck this life is.
Sure.
So we like caught wind of that. She posted about it on Facebook or something, and my parents were like, "Oh, like our daughter, remember her? You knew her when she was 4. Yeah, she's like 15 now and she writes songs, and we don't think they suck. Like, can she come?" And I showed up to the workshop. It was me and like 3 like housewives that lived on the island who wanted to know how to write songs, and I played some of my songs for her. They're probably like 4 or 5 minutes still at this point, and she saw like some potential in that. And she, after the first day of this like 2-3 day workshop, she just pulled my parents aside and she was like, so what do you want to do with Bailey? And my parents are not musical. They don't need their daughter to be famous or successful in the music industry. They were like, what do you mean? We just plan to like, feed her and
Yeah.
a human being was pretty much
Encourage her,
yeah,
stuff like that.
try to support her in some ways. But she was like, well, what do you want to do with her music? And they're like, we have no idea. That's why we brought her here. Take her to stuff like this, put her in talent shows. I don't know. And long story short, the conversation basically ended with her inviting me and my parents to come stay in Nashville with her for a week. And she was like, I can set Bailey up with some co-writes for a week just to see if she likes it, to see if songwriting feels like a actual career that she'd want to do day to day, and if she's good at it, if she can handle it. And we went. My parents took me to Nashville, and I spent a week writing songs here, and it went pretty good for a 15-year-old who'd never done it before. And at the end of the week, she signed me to her publishing company.
Wow.
Yeah. So once again, I don't really know how it happened, but that's what it was. Not like, it wasn't because I was doing anything super good. It was just like, I think she saw potential
Sure.
in me. And from that time, from like the age of 15 to 17, me and one of my parents would travel back and forth from Squim to Nashville to write songs like every few months. And which still to this day, I'm like so grateful to my parents for allowing that.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean,
That's so amazing.
when they saw that like I was offered a deal of some kind, like a publishing deal, like I get to be a professional songwriter at 15, they were like, okay, we're going to take this seriously then. Like, we don't know what it means, but we will put you on a plane. So yeah, I traveled back and forth. And then when I was 17, I think it just kind of came to a point. I'd written a ton of songs. I'd spent some time in Nashville. It was just me and my publishers still just kind of building my portfolio. And it kind of came to this point where it was like, all right, I've written a lot of songs. Like, I've done basically what I can do in this town without living here. And they felt like I'd developed my sound like pretty decently at that point. And it was kind of like, so we got to make a plan. Like, what's the next step? 2 options, really. I could wait another year, finish high school in Squim, and move by myself once I turned 18. I know it's hard not to laugh every time
you're like, Squim.
It doesn't like in Squim, like nobody knows what it is. So I feel like I say it that way. I don't know. But yeah, I could finish high school and then move to Nashville by myself, or I'm 17. My family could come with me to Nashville, and I could finish high school online, and I could get a head start so that when I'm when I'm legally an adult, like, I have a real foundation built. And my parents are amazing, and my family's very close, and they wanted to be a part of like making sure I'm good. Essentially, it felt crazy to them to just like send me across the country. Like, you're not doing college, you're just kind of pushing out into the big, bad, scary music industry, and we're just going to leave you out there. Like, that didn't feel right to them. Sure. So yeah, we all moved. I also have a little brother who was like 12 at the time. He's super chill, and he like, sure. I think it's because he knew that like if my parents would do the same thing for him if he was in my position at the time.
Sure.
So, yeah, we moved. We all lived in a like very small Airbnb in East Nashville for like 3 months, and then we moved to an apartment in Hendersonville.
Okay.
Lived there another 3 or 4 months, and then I turned 18. And at that point, I kind of started like getting a team around me. I'd been meeting with record labels. I had just started talking to like managers and stuff, and they were kind of like, okay, so you're 18. Are you good? Because I think we want to go back to Washington. And like, as soon as I turned 18, they and I graduated high school, they went back, and
You stayed.
yeah, I stayed. That's when I feel like my career really began for some reason.
Wow. So with that, like after being in those writing rooms and then finally like living there and embracing it, is that when your like solo career kind of started?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. I mean, just I always went into it with the mindset of like, I'm writing songs for myself as an artist. I learned that like I really love the songwriting side of things, probably more so than any other part of it. Like I love to perform. I love to like create content and be creative in every facet that I can. But if I had to pick one part to do for the rest of my life, it would be songwriting. But it was always with the mindset of like, I'm doing this as a solo artist. That's my ultimate goal. That's the best case. You know?
So in the beginning, when you were with the publishing company, you were writing songs like to pitch to other artists, or was it like not necessarily? Oh, okay.
Myself the whole time. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. That's really cool. And then were you playing out around Nashville?
Yeah, I did that a little bit in the beginning. My first like writers round open mic that I did was at this little dive called Douglas Corner Cafe. Like just the diviest, like show line, play your song, get out kind of place. And that was when I was like 15. And then the next place I played in Nashville was the Bluebird Cafe, which was like,
wow.
That was I waited in line for the open mic. And that was my dream when I moved. Pretty much the reason I knew I wanted to stay in Nashville was because I found out that Taylor Swift got discovered at the Bluebird Cafe. And that's the end all be all then, as
for
like
sure.
a young teenager, like I wanted to be her. So I was like, I have to go.
I still want to be her, to be honest.
I would be her if I had the opportunity.
Oh my gosh, she's
doing
so
well.
Awesome.
But yeah, that was the second place I played. And then
was it nerve-wracking when you got up there? You finally make it to the stage and you're waiting in line and it's like, okay, it's your turn.
But also it's like such a small, like homey, like cozy venue, and you don't realize like how just like cafe-y it feels, that I was kind of like, oh, this is chill. This is like the cafes I would play at home. Like I'm just not gonna look at all the like famous people pictures on the walls who have played here. Fine. And they actually invited me back to play after I played the open mic. They were like, we have a different like songwriter showcase. Do you want to come and play? And that just like made my entire life. Like that's still one of my favorite like days in Nashville, because it was so it made me feel like, okay, I'm supposed to be here. They like me, you know? And then I think the next place I played in Nashville was the Ryman. I never played on Broadway or like kind of a lot of like the classical, like cut your teeth type of performance stories around here. Like I did some open mics, and then I spent most of my time just writing and recording. And then kind of like next thing I knew, I signed a record deal, and they were like throwing me onto radio tour. And instead of
that, that's crazy.
It was like, instead of playing at like Tootsie's on Broadway, I was playing at like a small radio station in Ohio.
Sure. Yeah. You're playing in like conference room or something to like the program director.
Yeah.
And like the other people in the building. I did radio for 15 years. I'm well aware of the conference room shows.
Radio tour was a wake up call for me about
really
how this career is a job.
Oh yeah,
But
because you got to go to like you're probably doing all the morning shows and
oh yeah, everything, like 5, 6 different radio stations in a day, and we're driving across the country. And it was like I never toured before. I never
Mhm.
just done like a normal tour, so I didn't even know what it was like to be traveling constantly and like on a
Yeah.
stage every night. I I mean, I think I got my first record deal offer like 4 or 5 months into, like, after I moved to Nashville.
Wow.
And it's not nor it shouldn't, I don't know how it happened, because I didn't my it wasn't supposed to happen, let me tell you that. My publishers were at and the label I signed with was the first label that offered me a deal, but I
Wow.
didn't sign with them right away. I tried to, look at my options,
Play the
but
field
I
a
can't
bit.
them. But it was my publishers at the time were in New York meeting with this record label 300,
Hmm.
who I'm still signed with. And they were meeting with them about like a different artist, like pitching like different songs that other people had written. And like the label wasn't super excited about like whatever they were showing them. It wasn't like a great fit, but they hit it off with the person they were meeting with. So they were talking about other stuff, and they were like, well, do you have anything else you're excited about that you're working on? You guys seem cool. And they played them this song that I'd written, and they liked it. And the the A&R guy that they'd met with flew to Nashville like the next week, and I met with him, and then they flew me to New York, and I got to like
Wow.
have my first like big city music industry, like trying to woo you
Yeah,
experience.
like a rock star moment.
Yeah, and I was, I think, maybe newly 18 at the time. And so, they're asking like, what do you like, what is she like what can we get her, to make it like an experience, to make her want to sign with us. And I was like, well, I really like onesies. Like, I was really obsessed with these at the time. They were really trendy, the hood and the zipper.
Oh, sure.
I was like, I really want a cat onesie, and I really like that fancy water that comes in the glass bottles. I've never had that before, like the Voss water.
Yeah, the boss.
I wanted that. Like, I was like, that would be cool. And I really like Cheez-Its. Like, those were the only I could think of. So
That's amazing. It's yeah, most people will be like, I want Don Julio and
oh,
yeah,
yeah. I
case of whatever, and
yeah,
this and that and the other
like
thing.
expensive restaurant in New York City. I was like,
Right.
Cheez-Its if they have them. So I got to New York to a hotel room full of like Cheez-Its and Voss water, and they got me a leopard print onesie that I still have.
That's
Um,
awesome.
and it was a good experience. And then I came back to Nashville, and I I guess how it works is like one record label finds out, other record labels find out that one record label wants you, and then they also become interested. So then I got to meet with all the country labels in Nashville,
Hmm.
because I was doing country music at the time.
Yeah.
I'm skipping so far ahead in this story.
No,
Like, I'm
this is
sorry, it's very hard to be linear here.
it's all
I
good.
used country music, and I don't now.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that at some point. So yeah. I figured you were in the country stage of your career.
but yeah,
Okay. So
that didn't fully end until like a year ago, probably. But 300's not a country label. They're like, I mean, I knew them for being Fetty Wap's record label at the time, which
right.
I loved Trap Queen.
Mhm.
Always loved all genres of music. So they but they just liked me, and I kind of liked that. Like, they liked me just as an artist, not like you could be the next Taylor Swift, which is what
Sure.
all told me, which I hear at the time.
Of course. Of course.
But I don't know. But yeah, I met with the like major labels around here, and like ultimately I ended up doing a joint deal with 300 and Warner in
Oh.
Nashville.
Okay.
I wanted to go with 300 because they liked me before anybody else cared. Like,
Hmm.
they liked me just because they heard a song and they enjoyed it, not because anybody else was interested at all. But then Warner was a really good fit for what I wanted to do in country at the time, and they were willing to try and work together, for Warner to handle the country promotion and 300 to handle like everything else. It was an interesting partnership that we came up with, but I
That's
don't even.
awesome. They were able to like work together and, make
Yeah,
it happen for you instead
it
of
was
being
really
like, no,
cool.
you can either go there or here.
Yeah, it was really amazing actually, and I love like the family that I had over there before I transitioned into pop. I think that if I hadn't had that time before I kind of fully transitioned genre wise, like I wouldn't be where I'm at now with
Mhm.
my music, which is I'm at the most confident place with it that I've ever been. They both labels gave me a ton of freedom, just like experiment with what I wanted my music to sound like. Country music definitely, it feels like it comes with a lot more rules than any other genre, and
Sure.
I feel like all my partners on that team kind of just like saw me for what I am, and they didn't try to push those rules onto me. They were like, if you are making country music, we got you. And if
That's
you're not,
amazing.
I mean, we're gonna go because that doesn't make any sense. But we
Mhm.
got you. You're writing. That was kind of the time.
Yeah. Well, what made you just, was there a moment that you're like, you know what, I want to shift away from country and start pursuing more of the, pop R&B world?
Yeah, I mean, it was a really natural transition, honestly, because I think it has to do a lot with the fact that like I didn't grow up in the South. Like I'm
Mhm.
not like a country girl. Like a rural. I don't like
Rural?
that out of my mouth. A rural town in Washington State, which meant like I got stuck behind tractors on the way to school, and people listened to country music,
Mhm.
but I could drive less than 2 hours and be in Seattle, where there's such an
Everything. Grunge and
underground hip hop happening, and like Macklemore was like coming up at the
Oh,
time, and
sure.
with him for a minute. Like there was, I had access to like all different styles of music, so it was all in me. And growing up with church music, and my parents like kept all these different CDs on rotation. My mom had like a Brandy's debut album that she was obsessed with, and I think that was my first like taste of R&B, just that she would like have on repeat in the car. And then my dad had a Spin Doctors CD that like
Oh.
that was heavy rotation in our house for a long time, and I remember vividly. Then my aunt had a Dixie Chicks CD that she would play all the time, and we'd sing to that when she was babysitting me, which I think is part of the reason I started in country. So it was like at the time when I started getting opportunities in music, I was making country music because
Mhm.
I was 15 and I was listening to Taylor Swift's first album, and that was like the blueprint basically for how I learned to write songs.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's at least for me, for my experience, that was how I learned, was just by like imitating the things that I liked that I was hearing. So
Sure.
it happened really, the country music aspect of everything happened really naturally, and then I just started writing not country music. I would go into writes with country writers or producers, and I'd be like, I'm kind of feeling like a Kaylani vibe today. Can we do that? And I think, I mean, there's so many talented people. The people who work in Nashville can kind of do anything. So they're like, sure, whatever. We can write whatever you want. Like, let's go. I just, I like, because it was all, I started listening to other stuff because I like other stuff. And it was like I just started turning in like R&B songs, not like out of the blue, just like gradually my songs. It started with like an influence, like the influence
Uh-huh.
was all there, even in the country music I made, and then it turned into like, okay, now she's just turning in like pop songs and R&B songs and a country song sprinkled in there. Like just I've always kind of written everything. I think it got to the point where majority of the songs I was writing and showing to my team were pretty clearly not country songs.
Mhm.
And then those songs were like the better songs that I was turning in. It was like, okay, the best songs in my catalog right now are the pop R&B songs.
Okay.
They're not the country songs.
Sure.
And I just fell in love with that sound. I as I figure out who I am more as a person, as I exit puberty, I'm realizing like I feel like I'm like a pop R&B singer. Like this
Right.
vibe really like fits with me, and I've been listening to that kind of music all my life. So it just happened naturally, and thankfully my team, like, they were kind of the ones that initiated the transition. Because for me, I've always been like, I don't care what you call my music, I just want to release stuff that I like, and I want to release the best songs that I'm writing. They kind of came to me one day and they were like, so you're not writing country music anymore, turned in a few really good pop songs, you want to release those? And I was like, oh my god, I would love to release those. Can I? I'm still in like a half country, half 300 deal at this point. I'm like, I don't,
Sure.
I'm just writing. Like, just put me on a stage. Like, I don't think I was putting a ton of thought, honestly, into like the strategy of my career at that point. It was just like, I just want to make music. Like, I feel blessed to be in any kind of deal. I can make country music that I like. If that's the thing that everybody thinks sounds the best that I'm making, then that's what I'll release. I don't know. That was kind of my attitude at that point. And everything just kind of clicked once we officially made that shift into the pop world. I was like, okay, I'm so glad you guys think that this could work, because I've been thinking it could work, but I didn't know. Like, I didn't know if this stuff was better than the country stuff I was writing. Like, I just want to release like the best music that I can put out. And I think also I was a little bit hesitant for a minute, because this is a thing for me. And I've learned about it a lot through like Enneagram personality tests and whatever, that's like really solidified it. But I center a lot of my identity around like being different, which I hate to say out loud, because it sounds ridiculous, but it's just like, it's a thing for me. Like, as an artist, like I want to be wherever, like I'm going to stand out. And I didn't really fit in country for a while. Like the last couple years I was in it, and while like you should probably be somewhere that you fit, I think I liked that because of that I naturally stood out, because it was kind of like, she doesn't have a country vibe really at all. The way she dresses, talks, now the way she writes. But I was like, at least I know I stand out. At least I know I can get attention that way. And I felt like if I entered the pop landscape, what if I don't stand out anymore? Like, there's not very many rules, so anyone can be whatever they want to be, and it's so many different vibes and looks, and everybody has tattoos, and everybody's from the West Coast, and everybody samples hip hop and R&B, whatever. Like, I'm like, now, like on paper, I don't have anything different, and that kind of that scared me. But unfortunately, like, I needed the validation of other people when my team came in, and like they kind of validated. They were like, no, this stuff you're doing is good. Like, this could actually stand a chance in the pop landscape. I was like, okay, let's do it. Go, like, full. And yeah, that a lot shifted for me when we made that decision.
Sure. I mean, you definitely need the validation, because it's like you have, two record labels that are, promoting and pushing what you were doing as a country artist. And now you're like, well, all these pop songs you're saying are really great, so why don't we go that way? And for them to embrace that, I mean, that's amazing.
It's cool, man. I could have been so stuck. I could have been, I could have been stuck in a just 100% country deal, not feeling inspired to write country songs and kind of forcing something that wasn't authentic to me. Like, thankfully, just everyone on my team always gave me so much room just to like experiment and just find what felt like who I am as an artist. I think maybe it was because I started working with so many of them so young. Maybe they kind of knew. They were like, she's gonna grow and change. You sign someone at a young age, like she's still figuring out who she is. I don't know. I'm really grateful for it, because I super thought I knew who I was, and then I signed this deal, and then I started writing pop songs, and I was like, oh shit.
Well, with that, I mean, were you afraid, not like putting out your first song as a pop artist? I mean, you had a fan base as a country singer, and now all your fans are going to be like, whoa, this isn't country. Like, was that a fear of yours?
Yeah, I feel like I was just unsuccessful enough in country that I wasn't too worried about what people would think when I put out a different song. Like I felt like I was just below the cusp of what I would consider to be success in it, that I was like, not enough people care. Who cares? I want to put out. I might make like 3 people confused, and nah, like that's fine. They'll figure it out. You know? I mean, but there was nerves involved, just because I was like, what if I'm wrong? Like, what if this feels like the right path? But
Mhm.
I had spent so much time building a foundation in country, and yeah, there was a foundation there. There are people that knew my country songs, and so yeah, I was afraid of releasing a music with a totally different sound and then having it not do better
Mhm.
than the country music, which, like, on one hand, I was trying to be mentally prepared for, just because it's like I'm starting back at square one in a totally different genre. The people in the pop
Sure.
don't know who I am. They're country fans that will still enjoy my pop music, and there's people in Nashville who can still like rock with what I'm doing, but for the most part, we're building from the ground up again. So I was
Mhm.
kind of expecting, like, okay, it's okay if these songs don't get as many streams in the first week as your country songs did. That's okay. You were building from the ground up again. These people, this audience doesn't know who you are. Um, but I was pleasantly surprised. It was the song, they did better than the country songs.
They're
Like, off.
killing it. I
Thank
mean,
you.
I'm looking on your Spotify right now, and it's just like, what was the first song you put out that wasn't country?
Play With Me was the first song I put out that wasn't country.
Oh, wow. And that one is massive, and it's getting even
Yeah.
more massive. Tell me about
Dude,
this TikTok sensation that just happened.
oh my. So it's a little ironic, because I mean, you might be able to tell from this, at this point in the conversation, I talk a lot about, like, I just want to do what's authentic to me. I'm figuring out who I am. Like,
Mhm.
I I everything I do ultimately just comes from kind of a real place, and it's very much led by like how I feel. Like, oh, I feel like writing this kind of song when I'm in the
Mhm.
studio, and then all of a sudden that shaped the whole path for my career. I don't really know how to do it another way. And I released Play With Me maybe like a half a, almost a year ago. I don't know when I released it. I released it like towards the beginning of like quarantine.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
it was the first, I want to say August. I don't know. It was the first pop song I put out, and it did pretty well, like, as a first like release. But then cut to, like, now I've released 2 other like pop R&B singles, and those have also done pretty well. And I've just been spending the last year like promoting this new facet of my career. But yeah, Play With Me was the first one, and I went through kind of like a breakup, like 2 weeks ago now, I want to
Oh my
say.
gosh. I'm sorry.
It's cool. It's fine. It's whatever. It's not even, it's beside the point. Haha.
Sure.
But it's also not, because it was the day after this kind of breakup, like the initial conversation of it. And I'm a very emotional person. So I just wasn't, I was crying a lot. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
I like woke up crying, and I got this text from my manager that was like a TikTok that this girl posted, and she was in the car and she was blasting Play With Me, and she was like, "Listen up, ladies. If you're sad about a boy, put on Play With Me by Bailey Bryan and remember who the fuck you are." And then she blasted it and started singing it, and I'm crying in bed over a boy.
Oh,
I opened this TikTok about how, like, my song, because it's a very like, it's like a bad bitch anthem.
oh, sure.
It's like, forget him. Like, you play yourself when you play with me. Like, he's gonna regret this if he messes with you. Like, that's the message of the song. And
Mhm.
meanwhile, I'm like in shambles over this relationship. And I probably looked insane. I was like in bed, and I started laughing like through the tears, because I was like, the irony of this.
Sure.
I wrote the song that I didn't know I was going to need, like, in like 6 months.
That's amazing.
It's crazy. Because when I wrote the song, it was just like, I was single when I wrote the song, and I was dating around, and I wrote it because a dude that I was talking to, like, very casually sent me a "you up" text 11:30 at night, like, after he hadn't replied to me all day, and I thought that was annoying. I was like,
Right.
don't come on, like, I'm worth a reply earlier in the day. Like,
Sure.
no, I'm not up. I'm not here for your booty call. Like, that's not where I was at in it. And like, I didn't even like him that much. I was like, this is just annoying. Frick men. That was my vibe. So I picked up the guitar and wrote the song, and then yeah, then I was crying and I saw this TikTok and I was like, wow, this song means a lot more now. And what this girl is saying means a lot more now. And I felt like I was like experiencing what the song maybe was doing for other people when I released it. And I didn't even realize it. Like the empowerment that came with it, like for the girl that was posted the TikTok. So basically I was crying. And I was like, this is too ironic to not acknowledge it. So I duetted the TikTok,
Oh,
which
okay.
I like. It's where you put your video next to theirs
Sure.
that's playing for anyone who's not on TikTok. And it was her, like her audio, like her videos playing, and then my video without the audio, and it was basically just me reacting to to the song, to what she was saying. Like, as the artist who wrote the song, I was like, she was like, if you're sad about a boy, and then in text above it I was like, I am. And then she was like, listen to Play With Me by Bailey Bryan, or you are. And I was like, I am Bailey Bryan.
Oh,
That's and I was just sobbing still,
I was
which
gonna ask. You were still it
fully
was it
crying.
right away?
Yeah, just
Oh
immediately.
man.
I should take advantage of this moment. And
Sure.
I really don't like the idea of, I say I'm like all about being vulnerable and feelings and authenticity and whatever, but I really don't like the idea of crying on the internet. That felt like, I thought that was like where I would draw the line, but the moment just like felt too ironic to not take advantage of it. So basically I posted that, and the TikTok and the song blew up, like more than anything I've experienced before, stream wise or social media wise. It's been pretty crazy, and the streams just continue to go up
Oh, I know.
since I posted it. You're like, I'm looking at them.
I'm watching it in real time, like hitting over, like it's over 2 million plays on Spotify right now. It's just like, that's so crazy.
And I'm like, it gave so much more meaning to the song for me, because it's like I wrote it at a point where I was going through it on one level, and like I thought it was like cutesy and funny and like, woo, girl power. And then like I'm an emotional wreck, and I'm like, oh, I needed this way more than I knew I was going to need this. Like, and
Sure.
the people who streamed it and shared it and reacted to that TikTok, like, they're like, oh, this song got me through a breakup. Like, this song saved me and like showed me my worth and whatever. I'm like, you guys are doing that for me right now, like in what I'm going through, by responding to the song this way. Like, you're giving me like the gift that I didn't know I was giving by like giving you this song. So it's been a very full circle cool thing. And I'm like, man, I'm so glad I did pop music, and I'm so glad I went through breakup, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, that's wow, that's so incredible. What an incredible story.
Yeah.
To see that. I mean, timing and everything. I mean, wow.
Great.
That is really crazy. Wow. And then, well, I want to talk to you a little bit more about all the new stuff you have coming out as well, because tell me about this, the fresh start stories that you've done on your Instagram.
Yeah, that's a live series that I'm doing, and it's based on kind of this, what we're calling this era of music. I'm putting out a fresh single every single month for the next like 4 or 5 months, leading up to an entire project that's going to be called Fresh Start.
Oh,
Uh,
rad.
yeah, I put out a single called Fresh
Fresh
Start, and then
start.
this is a great name for a project. And so now it's a fresh single every single month, and the kind of the tagline for the project in this like era of music is life, love, and the pursuit of confidence. And all the music and just the stories around it are about like how little little fresh starts can happen in your life all the time that are a part of a journey. It's not so much about like, okay, I need to get here in my life and then I can start over and like be this person that I want to be. I can be confident, I can find love, I can live the life that I want to live. It's like you have everything you need within you at any moment to create a fresh start for yourself. I've been like dating around and I'm 23 and I'm struggle with confidence the same way that anybody else my age does. Like I'm not going through anything profound. This is just like my artistic dramatized version of it that I hope other people can relate to. So it's life, love, and the pursuit of confidence. And it's a fresh start every single month. And so I wanted to do to accompany that and accompany the singles every single month. I wanted to do an Instagram live with another person who I think kind of like embodies like the message of this era. And I'm calling it sensitive bad bitch music, as that's the genre that I've defined for myself. It's
And I
important.
love your little video you have. Like it looks like a like one of the like super late night ads where it's like
Yeah,
like for
infomercial.
$0 infomercial. That's the word I was looking for.
It's the SBB club. I'm trying to get people to join. Any join the SBB club, really. That's the thing. But it's all about everything I just said. I mean, it's finding confidence and it's like, empowerment. Like everybody wants to be like a bad bitch these days, which is very cool. But I cry a lot. I feel a lot of feelings, and sometimes I feel like that side of existing as a human isn't widely acknowledged in the bad bitch community. And so I wanted to like make a space for people who feel the way that I feel through my music and through just like and my brand or whatever. I hate that. But fresh start stories is every month I'm interviewing basically someone who I consider to be a sensitive bad bitch, and talking to them about the fresh starts in their life that have gotten them to where they're at in their life, love, and pursuit of confidence.
I love that. That's such a cool, what a cool message and what a cool thing to do. And to premiere a song every month at that time as well. I did see that this month you released Sober and you did that on New Year's Day. Tell me about that song.
That song, I mean, it just felt like very fitting to release it on New Year's Day because it's called
Sure.
And, a lot of people are hungover on New Year's Day or wishing that they weren't suddenly sober. But the song, I mean, the sensitive bad bitch facet of that song is that it's about kind of like knowing that you have to let something go. And so many of the songs that I'm releasing right now are just like letting go of what doesn't serve you anymore, like letting go of the toxic relationship and realizing that you're worth more, but also acknowledging like the pain in it and that it's hard. And in this song, in this case, it's kind of about how like being in love with the wrong person is about being drunk, or it's like being drunk, where it's like, I know I might regret this in the morning. Like I know eventually this like might not feel good. I hope it's not a disaster when I wake up. But when you're in the moment, like you just want to dive further into that feeling. So the song's about acknowledging that essentially. And I thought it was fitting for New Year's Day, the kind of waking up and like regret.
Very cool. And are you going to do a new song the first of every month, or it's just at some point during the month?
The first Friday every month is what we're shooting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. And then, like you said, it's going to be part of a full project here in a few months down the line.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Real quick, where were you at when like COVID hit? Like, how did that all affect you and your writing process?
I mean, I was just about to release Play With Me when COVID hit. And then it was, the world's burning now.
Right.
I pushed back the release a few times just because of just things going on in the world that felt heavier and more important. And I wasn't feeling motivated to promote myself at that moment.
As but both artists weren't.
Yeah, exactly. Eventually, like you have to work. And I was hoping to like bring some positivity into people's lives with the song. And I mean, we had to shift our whole approach to releasing music. It was like, I'm going to go on tour and promote this new music, and I'm going to visit different streaming outlets and do like series and collaborate with different people in different places. And then it was like, you can't do any of that. You can sit at home. So what can you do from home? And I was forced to get really creative about like planning the release of this music. Thankfully, I'd gotten into the studio and gotten a lot of work done on the songs that we've released to this point already, and the songs that we're about to release. Like, I had a lot of stuff almost finished so that I was able to get work done and kind of get this project finished and ready to go remotely. And then it was just like, I mean, I got in touch with writing by myself again, which I
Mhm.
thought was a good thing. Like, you're in Nashville, you have access to so many talented people and writers. It's easy to just get in a pattern of like, I'm gonna just go to a co-write every day. I'm gonna go into the studio and work with a producer when I want to make something, and share brain power with other people, which is amazing. It's so magical, like, to step into a room with like strangers or just someone with a brain that's not your brain, and then somehow get on the same page to like create like one body of work. Like, I think
Mhm.
that's so fire, and I'm like so obsessed with that process. But it's easy to kind of like lose like your very distinct voice as a songwriter when you're always collaborating with other people. I didn't realize it at the time, but I feel like I kind of forgot, like, or just like lost sight of what am I actually bringing to the room. Like,
Mhm.
I wasn't being intentional about like, okay, here's what I bring to the collaboration, or here's what I bring to a song that's signature to me that like other people are going to want to work with. I
Mhm.
wasn't really thinking about it. I was just showing up and creating, and then it was just me and my guitar. Like, that was the only option if I wanted to create. And I got to kind of like recenter myself creatively and be like, oh yeah, that's my voice. Like, that's the unique thing that I can bring. And like, these are the things that I can like hone in on, like, whether it's the tone of my voice or just like the kind of phrasing I use when I write. Like, I feel like I got to get back in touch with the stuff that makes me who I am as an artist. So that was actually like a really cool blessing from it. And I think that's the biggest thing that I'm taking out of this season.
Sure, that's amazing. Yeah, and you kind of got to get, I mean, not full circle, but back to where you started as far as like writing songs by yourself
For
and
sure.
getting them out to the world. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Well, I love what you're doing, and I love that the story you told about, the TikTok and that's just blows my mind, and I'm so amazing to see the numbers just go. I'm just refreshing this thing again. It's just like, so
Look,
congratulations. That's so awesome.
thank you.
And I have one more question for you. I really appreciate you talking with me today. I have one more. Do you have any advice for aspiring artists?
Oh, yeah. The advice that I always like want to give to people, it's the only advice I really feel confident giving because I don't know what I'm doing still, um, is just that there aren't any rules. Like, I don't feel like there's actually any rules to being an artist. I feel like something I ran into coming into the music industry and starting to do it as like an actual job is there's a lot of people who make you feel like this is the way that we do things, and you got to write this way and record this way, and you got to know this about yourself, and you got to pick a lane here and fit yourself in a box here, and if you don't, people are going to be confused. So like, here's the rules, and this person did it this way, so now you have to do it this way because it worked for them. Like, there's a lot of that. And I just found like I've just kind of accidentally like not listened to a lot of that. And I don't it seems to be working out okay. Like, I don't I they nobody told me it was an option to like do a joint venture deal with a country label and a hip hop label that are in two
Mhm.
different locations, but I had something that they wanted to be involved in and help develop. And so it worked out. It came together. I didn't say like, oh, well, no one's ever done this, so we shouldn't do it. And while I'm not in that situation anymore, it got me to where I am currently. So I wouldn't change it. And I wasn't following any rules when I did that. It's just, if you just like do you, I think things will come together around it rather than you like trying to fit into the things that are already around you. You can make the path however you want to make the path. Like there's no, just because somebody hasn't done something before doesn't mean that it's impossible. Not when it comes to like creativity. Like I don't know a lot of people who like didn't really have success in country and then like blew up in pop. It was always like, okay, you gotta like build your foundation in country, become Taylor Swift, and then like make a transition, but then come back to your roots. Like you see people doing stuff like that. I'm like, I don't know anybody who like isn't really a country singer that started as a country singer and then like became like full blown like trying to be like Post Malone out here. So I'm like, but that doesn't, I don't think that means that I can't do it. You just, yeah, you make your own rules. That's the advice that I would give. And anyone who tries to act like they have it like completely figured out, you should stay away from them because they're liars. That's a little dramatic, but yeah, that's my advice.